Welcome to another episode of What's Going On with Swagger Magazine. Today I have a dynamic powerhouse speaker. Her name is Mel EB. She is from Boston, Massachusetts, and she speaks around the topic of women empowerment and life change. She has prevailed through and passionately speaks on issues of physical, mental, sexual abuse, parental abandonment, rape, being human sex trafficked, living on the streets, homelessness, juvenile incarceration, teen pregnancy, enduring being placed on life support a total of 9 times, abusive relationships, domestic violence, living with depression, PTSD, and so much more that we'll get into today. And just our conversation before we got on, just living in your truth and being okay, with the trauma that you may have in your life. So, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. First, please allow me to say it is an honor and it is with great gratitude that I am with you to this evening. It is publications as your own that you represent that make women like me have a voice. And, it starts one step in front of the other. And so for that, I am truly grateful.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have you here. I feel like everybody watching, and I know this show is going to bless me too. Just about standing in your truth and it being okay. To talk about your trauma. So I do want to get into it. Just reading through your bio. How are you still standing?
You,
How
you
are
know,
you still standing?
hearing you say it still is so surreal to me when I hear people kind of, really kind of chop through it, right? When you're in the midst of it, when you're in the belly of the beast, you're just getting up each day to try to just get to the next day. Sometimes it's the next hour, I'll be honest with you, right? So hearing you list it all out, it's like, good gosh, like how? And I will say this, but if not for the grace of, let me say that again,
Mm-hmm.
it if not but for the grace of. And why is that important? You know, as all of us, I say this all the time, we are spiritual beings having human experiences, right? So if we're talking about this, I mean, let's really have this conversation. And I'm going to utilize this platform because I can only imagine that there's probably somebody out there right now that's going to need this pouring. So if you don't mind, I'd be more than happy if you would allow me to pour in with that first question.
Yes, please do.
When we, and when I say we as spiritual beings, come into this experience. You come into the world. We don't pick our parents. We don't pick our situations. We don't even pick our social economic status in which we grow up in. We'll know people through our lives that have no type of money whatsoever. And we might run into people in our lives that have an absorbent amount of money that they can frivolously spend money on things that you and I probably would never do. But the reality of it is that there's one thing that keeps us all in the same consistent, and that is the human experience, which is life, pain, struggle, hurt, love. All these emotions are normally attached to feelings that are experienced in an event. Now, let's say these events are a whole lot of negative things, bad things, tough things, hard things. So I speak from my space because I can speak with authority on my life because this is what I've been through. And when I share what I share, a lot of times I speak from a space where I am talking from my open heart space.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really important. And it's important because I don't care about who or what you were yesterday. I don't even care about what you were doing. What I do care about is how you're feeling right now. You matter to me. Hey, sis, I want you to know that I see you. I don't even need to know you, and I know three things about you. First, I know that Everything that you have been through, although it has tried to take you out, you are still standing. So that means you have grit. That much I know is true. The second thing I know about you is that you are a warrior. I speak about this all the time. I am not a fan of the word survivor or victim. And the reason why is because I feel that these words still give power to the events in which we endure. But yet I use the word warrior. Because, see, as a warrior, we put on our armor, we go out to battle, and you will have the scars, the scrapes, the dings on that armor, showing that you've been through something, but you survived. You came through it. And the third thing that I know about you is that no matter what happens, you will get through it. These sometimes may seem like far-fetched ideas, and sometimes when you're hearing it, when you're in the midst of it, and you can't even see your own hand in front of you because the darkness becomes that great, it is that much more important to believe enough to know I can get through this. I will get through this. I must get through this.
I wanted to ask you, that made me think, when you were in the midst of all of the trauma that you went through, did you have someone that was pouring into you, letting you know that, there was light at the end of the tunnel? Or did you go through all of this trauma alone?
So I'll be honest with you. A lot of it, I was alone.
Mm-hmm.
A good lot of it. A lot of times, people that were supposed to protect me or love me didn't. People that were supposed to ensure that I got to the next level or stage in my life, they walked away. I've been abandoned in many different ways, right? And so when you experience the pain of the rejection of your parents, you experience the pain of the levels of abuse that happen at the hands of individuals that are supposedly supposed to protect you and love you. It is a very confusing and difficult place to be because it doesn't meet or match the narrative that we're given, right? We're told that your family is supposed to love you and protect you. But what do you do when your family doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you are by yourself? So by the time I was 11, 12, I was already in the system.
Mm-hmm.
I was already in group homes and foster homes. And I'll tell you, I, you know, I I had a real interesting thing happen to me, which was as all this went on and all these things happened to me, and I've spoken about this at length in many of my other videos where I was trafficked because I got kidnapped out of downtown Boston. I was trafficked into New York, where I was forced into prostitution at 13.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been beaten, guns thrown at me. I've had triggers pulled on me that didn't go off, chained to beds, gang raped, everything you can think of. I always say the best way to describe it without getting so graphic is I say everything that can happen to a female has happened to me. The only thing I can't speak on and I don't speak on is drug abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about this, so I don't talk about it because I don't know about it. But everything else I do. And so when you go through all of these sorts of experiences, I'll be quite honest. I was very broken for a very long time and I was a hurting unit. And so by the time I was in a place where people were kind of beginning to pay attention that something was a little askew and off. I had a probation officer because at this point I already committed crimes with fighting. And there was a point in time where I was home, I'd run away and I thought I didn't want to be at the group home I was at. So I left and I was on the run and I was breaking into houses. And people always, they talk about this sort of stuff. And I always want to be very clear. When I broke into houses, I didn't break in to steal like gold or money or electronics. I actually broke in to steal food
Mm-hmm.
because I was hungry. because I had no food to eat.
Mm.
So there are many different chapters of my life where I would go days without eating because I didn't have food to eat, right? So there's levels
Mm-hmm.
to what one goes through. And the first person that stepped into my life that became that beacon for me was my probation officer. Such an odd thing. So this gentleman came into my life and he saw what was going on. And he was the first person ever in my life to believe me.
Mm.
There's something about when you go forward and you share with people that you believe love you and trust you with a truth, and you begin to get gaslit because they don't want the truth to get out because they're afraid of either the shame
Mm-hmm.
or even the legal issues that may come behind it, that it becomes the dirty secret,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I was, I was the crazy one, I was the problem, I was the troublemaker, I was the, everything was about me in a negative way. It
Mm-hmm.
was never about the adults that failed me. It was never about the adults that were abusing me. And partly that's because predators understand that when you are not protected and
Mm-hmm.
left unattended, especially as a young person, because this can happen to males as well.
Mm-hmm.
But young ladies are more groomed for this usually because it's considered society's more successful, it's what they do. So here you are in a space sharing your truth only to be told you're a liar. It
Mm-hmm.
never happened. Why are you lying? That grown man doesn't want anything to do with you, you little fast girl. You're fast. You're the
Mm-hmm.
problem. You did this to yourself. Well, maybe if you weren't walking around here with those jeans on, you wouldn't have this problem. Well, you know your Uncle Leroy's coming, so why don't you put some real clothes on? So
Mm-hmm.
there's this whole message that gets sent to young ladies that they are shamed not only for their bodies, but also shamed because if you ever, why? Why should I in my own home have to change? And
Mm-hmm.
better yet, why is it that I, as a young little girl, should be concerned about a grown man
Yeah, he shouldn't be coming over if it's that
if
serious.
it's that serious? And
Yeah.
that is one of the things that I teach on, which is when are we as a collective, as a community, when are we as a village going to stop allowing Uncle Leroy, that we all know shouldn't be holding on to the little kids? We all know this. He. But we know not to leave him, but yet and still, he's still allowed to
Mm-hmm.
attend to family functions. He's still allowed to go to grandma and big mama's house. He's still allowed to do all these things, knowing he has harmed children in
Mm-hmm.
the family. See, these are the dirty truths that no one wants to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
so it becomes problematic because as we, as the person maybe receiving the trauma or the abuse, then begin to act out because we don't know what to do with what is happening to us. And then we become labeled as the problem.
And with your story, you're able to help so many women just by all that you've gone through. What or how did you find the courage? Because I read that you were able to go on to get 2 college degrees. You know, you have 6 children, and you've done so many things to help women. You've won awards for being a motivational speaker. Where did you find the courage to say, I'm not going to sit in this trauma. I'm not going to let it define me. I'm going to go out and do more.
That's a great question. I got tired of being tired.
Mm-hmm.
So, I say this all the time, and I want to be very, very fair and clear about this. Mental health is one of the things that I champion because I believe in being the healthiest form of yourself. Not only do I believe that you should be the healthiest form of yourself, I also believe that we as women have a right to stand in our truths. And that truth is whatever you may have experienced or endured. and not have it rewritten by somebody because it makes them uncomfortable, not have it rewritten by somebody because they don't want to believe it because it's too painful for them. You know, a lot of times I talk about how when I've had the opportunity to interact with someone who has caused me harm or has abused me or have done something to me, a lot of times I'm either met with, I don't remember it happening that way, or I don't remember it at all. And a lot of times I'll say, well, the reason you probably don't remember it is because it was a regular Tuesday for you.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so when it's a regular Tuesday, of course you don't remember it. But see, what you don't realize is that you damaged me so greatly that you rewired my brain. You rewired the thinking. You rewired how I viewed the world. You rewired how I interact with other people. And so when you start packing trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, and you say, well, how many more things can you go through? The problem is that when you become broken and you don't understand what healthy looks like, you continue to attract more brokenness because you attract more broken people. See, because broken people can only create more brokenness. Oh, I'm about to teach here. Watch where this is about to go. You didn't know where this was going, but I'm going to give it to you. When brokenness creates more brokenness, it can't give you health and happiness. Woo, that's teachable right there. So if I can't give you the happiness, how can I expect you to love me if I can't love myself? See,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not able to be who I'm supposed to be and walk in my truth if I can't have an opportunity to heal the little me's that are inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
See, this weekend, I'll tell you something quite interesting would happen. I was getting ready to go to an event and I was in my oldest daughter's room. And I was getting ready and I was doing my hair and I was doing my makeup. I don't know what happened that I began to talk to her about this one day, it just popped into my mind. It was a day where I had been acting out at school because my father's brother had been sexually molesting me. I was 7 years old in the second grade. Nobody knew. I was shrouded with fear, shame, and also confusion.
Mm-hmm.
I was a latchkey kid, meaning that my parents were at work, so I was given a key to go home. Lock the door, don't answer it, sort of thing. And here in New England, we have very unique housing. We call them triple deckers or three families, and they're only unique to this area. And they are literally three apartments stacked on top of each other, but it's not concrete or brick, it's an actual wood structure. And so he lived on the first floor, we lived on the second, so he would know when I would enter into the home at 7 years old. And he would begin to offer me dollar bills or a bowl of ice cream to come into his apartment. Let that sit with you for a second. Because many of us have 6 or 7 year old nieces or nephews or friends that have little ones that are 6 or 7, or maybe you got cousins, and you think about that little girl and imagine now a grown man going to that baby and saying to her, I have $1 to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, uncle. What is she going to do? Say no? Of course not.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to go on ahead. Now, why is this significant? As I was getting ready, I was sharing with my daughter about this one particular day. On this particular day, my father had begun to beat me so badly that my mother left the house with the other kids because she
Mm.
didn't want to hear my father beating me. And my father lifted me above his head and said, if I wanted to, I would snap your back in half. I was 7 years old. How confusing. Here's a man that I love because he's the only one that shows me attention or affection. But at the same time, he's the man that also beats me and is verbally and emotionally abusive. And out of nowhere, I started crying. And I realized in that moment, as I was sharing this with my daughter, that I just met that 7 year old Mel. She came out.
Was
So
your
when you
father?
hear,
Was
God,
your
sorry,
father? Did he do that to your siblings, or was it just you? Was he
My
abusive
mother,
to
my
everybody?
mother nope, my mother protected the others. It was just me.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So why is that important? I talk a lot in my discussions, in my podcasts, on the radio, even in my book. I talk about we all, especially when you have moments of trauma, there is going to be these times where you're going to be stunted emotionally because that traumatic event becomes that difficult that you have no choice but to become frozen in time. And sometimes we're unable to get past it. Sometimes we just can't move past it. Sometimes we get stuck. Sometimes we don't know how to unstick ourselves from the ground. It's almost like a quicksand begins to suck you in and you don't know how to quite move from it. So what you do is you kind of pretend like it doesn't exist and you try to move on to the next moment until the next event happens. So now you got the 7-year-old you, and you got maybe a 10-year-old you, and you got a 12-year-old you, and then you got a 15-year-old you. And before you know it, there's an 18, 19, a 20, and a 22-year-old you because you keep picking broken people that you get involved with because your radar, your antenna, as I say, is broken, that your choice process is not that great because you don't know what healthy looks like. You don't know what love really is because you've never truly experienced it. You don't understand how to love yourself because you never have either been shown that or love itself, right? And so we struggle. And so as we go through these things, I speak on how there are many different versions of ourselves. It's not that, you're mentally unwell if you're schizophrenic. No, 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 no. This is more about these moments, these capsulated moments or periods of time where trauma is happening that literally your wiring in your brain changes.
Mhm.
And so my daughter and I simultaneously met 7-year-old Mel.
Mm.
And she sobbed. She sobbed because I found her.
How did you heal before you moved on? Was it therapy? Like what
Oh,
tools?
oh
Like
yeah.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I am a huge champion for therapy. I am serious about choosing yourself. Right. And what I mean by that is we have to learn that it's okay to set up boundaries and it's okay to choose ourselves. And
Mm,
so I have been in therapy for 25 years. I am
mm,
still in active therapy. I recently this year have finally stepped down from an every week basis to every other week. And
mm.
I'll admit, at first, I was kind of like, you don't want to see me anymore. you
Mhm,
know because there's a relationship, and I'll be clear, I have not kept the same therapist through this whole time. um when I first started, I went through programs, group homes, and all these facilities, and the state provided therapists and all these things that happen. And I never really was able to connect with any of these therapists. Part of it was because I didn't identify with them.
mm,
I did not have anything in common with Becky with the good hair. I
mhm,
did not, she didn't come from my world. She didn't come from my neighborhood. She didn't understand my struggles. She didn't understand why certain things upset me. She didn't get it because she couldn't identify with it, right? And then at 19, in the midst of my anger, I was an angry, angry young lady. I would wake up angry. I would go to bed angry. I would walk around angry. If you said, Mel, why are you angry? I don't know.
yeah.
I just am. But maybe if you look at the list of things you listed off, it
Mm,
might explain it a bit. But let me say this one thing. Why is this important? Well, I realized I was wasting so much energy hating and fixating on my abusers, and they were not thinking about me.
mm,
I would wake up thinking about all the things that had happened and how I'd been wronged and who wronged me and how they wronged me. And then it was not until I realized they were not exerting that energy on me, and that forgiveness was going to be my first step. The forgiveness was not for them, the forgiveness was for me. For me to stand and understand, for example, my parents, my biological parents, not my adopted, my biologicals. I understand today that if my mother knew better, she would do better. I really believe this. I don't believe that my mother was just this horrible, wicked human being that was just out to make my life horrible. I don't believe this. Nor do I believe that my father intentionally just set out into the world to take this little girl and do the things that he did. I don't believe this. I do believe that both of my parents had no business having children because they both were broken. So they had no way to truly pour into me and love me the way that I deserved to be protected and loved because they didn't have the tools or the skill set to do it. Now, please understand that right there, that's 15 years of therapy. Okay, I didn't just wake up one day and just go, "Oh, all right, y'all, I'm good. I figured it out. I had some mysterious thing happen. I went to altar call and I was able to receive it, and now I'm good." That's a lie. I will stand by that every single time. I may ruffle some feathers. People may not like what I'm going to say, but that's a lie. And I'm going to tell you why. I tried and I prayed my depression away. I try to pray my anxiety away. I try to pray my suicidal thoughts away. I try to pray, but the reality of it is that if I did not get the help that I needed, I would not be here today.
Mm.
I speak about this all the time. The first time I tried to take my life, the first time I tried to unalive myself, it was 600 pills. Let me say that
Mm.
again. People don't understand. When I tell you 600, I'm talking 2 large bottles of extra strength Tylenol, extra strength Anacin. Why is this important? I had just turned 14, literally days earlier, and I did not want to live. I was done. I had nothing to live for. Everybody who was ever supposed to protect me didn't. Everybody who was ever supposed to love me never did. I was hurt every way from Sunday. I was broken. I did not want to live. And so it is only but by the grace of, and what did I say in the beginning? But by the
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't lose my life.
Yeah. That's why
And
you're here for a purpose. You're here for a reason to, to touch and to be able to relate. Like you said, you couldn't relate to so many other therapists because of, Becky with the good hair. She couldn't relate to you. So in order for you to be able to, minister and support into anyone else, you would have had to have those experiences. So
absolutely.
what do you? I know that you're a motivational speaker, and you have your radio show. How can the people, if they want, just to talk to you, for you to mentor them, how can they find you? Um, where are you?
Absolutely. So I'm on all forms and facets of social media. My handle is going to be Mel EB 617 across the board, every which way. Also, my publicist of Read Entertainment, she is fabulous. I would tell you that you can reach out also to them. That is also another great way. I work really hard to try to connect with everybody that reaches out to me because this work is about us collectively. I'm doing this because my goal, my dream, my vision is that my voice would resonate to the millions. Because I know for a fact there are many of us in this tribe that have yet to be found because they believe that they are alone and they are scared and they are lonely and they are afraid and they are standing with shame and fear and they're unable to even process what has happened or happening to them currently. And this is why it becomes so important that this work happen because my goal is that I pour into people not only about trauma, right? Yes, this is definitely one side of the wheelhouse, but the other side is motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Motivation is going to be about, I tell you right now, I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. See, I'm not going to be outworked. You asked a question earlier, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. You said, how did you get through school? How did you choose? Let me tell you, I got up every day because I didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And let me explain what that means. See, when I got pregnant at 16, my biological father, what little relationship I had with him, very minimal, was gone because I was an embarrassment. I was a failure. I was no good. I was not good enough. My 10th grade teacher told me, you might as well drop out of school now. You're never going to be anything. I kid you not. I was living in a shelter called St. Mary's for unwed mothers. That's what I lived in while pregnant, and also when I delivered my baby, I came back to. And prior to that, I was locked up because my foster home did not want the responsibility of a pregnant girl. So they had nowhere to put me. So because I was a ward of the state and I was on the juvenile delinquent side, they had to relock me back up because they had nowhere to put me. Now imagine being locked up in juvie jail while pregnant, big belly. Okay. So at that point, the reason why I'm sharing this is that I understood enough to know that my only way to get out was going to be through my education. I understood that the only way that I was ever going to be somebody that I would show those, because that's what I did. I used all of the people that said I wasn't good enough. I used those words as fuel. Every time I wanted to give up, I would remind myself, they said you weren't going to make it. They said you weren't going to do it. They said you weren't good enough. They said you were a failure. They said you were a whore. They said that you didn't do these things. And that is why on the Ultimate Speaker competition in Philly in July of 2020, this year, that was the winning speech that I did, which was talking about how my grandmother didn't believe I was graduating from college because someone had told her that they never saw me with books. Yeah,
And you did it
I
twice, right?
did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of, I really, it's so important. I know that you have a large platform and you have many, many, many women of color that are all over your work and what you're doing. And please allow me to say this. Hey, sis, I see you. Not only do I see you, I need you to get up. Come on, it's time. Don't let that procrastination be your destination. Matter of fact, I need you to stand up. See, we've been in the pity party a bit too long. You've spun your wheels in the sand a little too long. I need you to get up now. See, this doesn't work just by me saying it. If you can't physically do it, you can't get there. You can't be there. You can't achieve what's there for you. So I need for you right now to stand up, dust yourself off. I'm sorry these things have happened to you. I'm sorry that you have been abandoned. I'm sorry that you've been neglected. I'm sorry that you've been let down. I'm sorry you've been lied to. I'm sorry that you've been abused. I'm sorry that you've been hurt. I'm sorry that you've had somebody take advantage of you. I'm sorry that your name has been dragged through the mud. I'm sorry that you've been taken advantage of and people have used you, whether it's for your money, whether it's for your kindness, whether it's for your love. You know, I say it all the time. Your love gets taken for granted. Your kindness gets taken as a weakness. Since I'm sorry all these things have happened. I'm sorry you might have had children with someone who can't be a parent with your child. I'm sorry
Mhm.
that you've been trying to achieve a life and no one seems to want to open doors for you. I'm sorry that you struggled through the life that you're having, but sis, I need you to get up right now. Sis, I see you. I want you to get up right now, because if you don't get up right now, nobody's going to get you up. And see, I can't walk away and know that you're not able to stand up before I leave. Sis, I need you to know you are worthy. I need you to know you are somebody. I need you to know you are capable. I need you to know there is a table being created right now for you to have a seat at. I don't care what they said to you yesterday. It was a lie. Do not give power to words that do not hold value or virtue in your life. I need you to understand that there's going to be a masterful plan that is meant for you, and it is only going to be for you. But unless you're willing to stand up and engage what it is, there is no way, let me say it again, there is no way to that point.
You
To
just
that
took us
point.
to church.
Yup, sis.
You
I
took us
needed
to
to get
church.
that.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much. This was really a blessing to me and encouraging to me and motivational to me. I really hope that you connect with her, and just your transparency, has I know it helped me. I can only speak for myself. It's helped me to feel more comfortable about just sharing my story. We appreciate you for being transparent and being honest and open. There are a lot of people out here who keep it to themselves.
Sure.
And we just thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Make sure you, um, let's see, read limitedent@gmail.com if you want to connect.
And
And before,
I'm also on iHeart platform. I'm on iHeartRadio 98.1 FM, the Urban Heat, which is behind me. Why is that important? We are a black owned radio station.
yes, okay,
I'm all about black excellence. I'm all
yes,
about black girl magic. I am
yes,
here for all of it. And my show currently is on Mondays from 7 to 9 p.m., which is part of the Bomb Squad. And, plus we be playing some jams. Just
okay,
tune on in. Yes. Get on
yeah.
that iHeart platform for sure, for sure.
Yep, and I'm definitely going to be connecting with you after this. So thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
guys for watching and have a good evening.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.